everyone, hope you are doing well. So in this video we will basically break down the FOMC meeting, and this is currently the countdown of the next FOMC meeting that we have on 19th of March. Okay, so if you see this chart, this is basically the target rate probability of 19th March Fed meeting. Okay, so this is currently the rates, and here are their percentage. If you can see, there are 99 percentage of probability like the rate will be unchanged, but there is 1% of probability that it will be cut, it will decrease. Okay, so let's break it down. What actually happens when the rate increases, decreases, or unchanged? Okay, so if you see my this chart, okay, this is basically, I have brought up the important informations here regarding the Fed interest rate, how actually they works, what happens to the crypto of rate increase, decrease, and unchanged. Okay, so basically when a person has to borrow a money in America, he has to pay an interest rate. Okay, so generally when the interest rate are higher, usually people don't borrow money due to the higher interest rates. Okay, so when the interest rate are lower, people usually borrows money due to the low rates of interest. Okay, so here I have simply break down into the three parts. The first one is basically rate increase. In rate increase, we also call it like rate hikes. When the rate hikes, taking loan become difficult as usual, and investor basically not put their money in risky assets like Bitcoin. So when the rate increases, as I told you, people usually try to prevent the borrow of money. So when they don't borrow, simple, they will not invest, and in this way, the money will not flow into risky assets like Bitcoin. Okay, so when the rate increases, this is basically the bearish for the crypto market. The second scenario is the rate unchanged. So rate unchanged means the interest unchanged, same rate applies of the last month. So in this way, basically nothing much happens on the market, but if we want to find the what's the next price of the crypto market up or down, we mainly have to depend upon the Powell's speech. So in Powell's speech, basically he usually give hints what actually coming in future. If he say something good news, market usually react to the upside. If he hints toward the bad news, market usually react downside. That's simple. Okay, so the third one is the rate decrease. As I told you, when the rate decreases, usually people try to borrow money, okay, because of the lower rates. So when the rate decrease, that is also called rate cut, taking loan become easy. So when the taking loan become easy, investor will put their money in risky assets like Bitcoin. So that is basically bullish for crypto. When the rate decreases, this is very bullish for crypto market. So if you see, we have currently uh, like 1 day and 9 hours left in the next FOMC meeting, and you have to be uh, ensure and watch this meeting in order to find out what's actual the interest rate or. And usually, as you can see, there are 99% or interest rate remain unchanged. So this is what I'm expecting. The interest rate will be unchanged. And as you can see, what I wrote here, when the interest rate unchanged, we basically mainly depend upon the Powell speech. Okay, so the Powell speech tomorrow is very important one. He will usually give some hints regarding the quantitative tightening or easing. But before that, we have to know about what's actual the quantitative easing and quantitative tightening. So to understand the economy of a country, these two factors are very important to understand. So if you see, I have basically draw a table and a breakdown of both QE and QT. So first we will see what is quantitative easing. So quantitative easing is basically a policy in which Fed buys government bonds and MTS from banks. In easy wording, basically, the quantitative easing is usually provided to make the economy booster and to increase the money supply. So basically, what's the goal of the quantitative easing is to increase the money supply, lower the interest rate as we discussed here, rate decrease. Okay, so in quantitative easing, the interest rate decreases. Got it? So The goal is basically to increase the money supply, lower interest rate, and boost economical growth by making borrowing cheaper. Understand? So if you see, the quantitative easing basically happened in 2008 financial crisis and in COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, so if you see this my chart, quantitative easing has been started, where Fed trying to buy the bonds of government, decreasing the interest rate, increasing the money supply, and boosting the economy. And after that, you see the money flowed into the riskier assets like Bitcoin, and after that, Bitcoin surged to the upside. Okay, so in opposite of quantitative easing, there is quantitative tightening. So what is quantitative tightening is, basically Fed usually sell the bonds, stop reinvestments, drain the liquidity from the market. Okay, so what's the goal of QT? QT is basically to reduce the inflations, okay, by increasing the interest rate and slow down the economical growth. Got it? So QT basically makes the borrowing coster. Okay, QT borrowing coster, and QE makes the borrowing easier. Okay, so if I if you wanna ask in which phase we are currently in, we are currently in quantitative tightening phase. Okay, at as of the current date. Got it? So the second thing is QE boost crypto prices. So when the Fed inject liquidity, money flow into riskier asset, no doubt, including stock and crypto, Bitcoin and alt surge during QE in 2020 and 2021 as investor basically sought high return in a low interest rate environment. So as if you see this chart in 2020 and 2021, investors basically took advantage of lower interest rate and they put their money into the riskier asset, and this basically surged the price of the Bitcoin and the others altcoin. Got it? So in opposite of this, QT basically hurts crypto prices. When the Fed tight the liquidity and rise the interest rate, in this way, basically, the capital moves from riskier asset to safe assets like bonds and gold. Okay, so the crypto bear market of 2022 basically largely due to the aggressive rate hikes and quantitative tightening. So if you see, the the last bear market here in 2022. Okay, why actually this happens? This is basically due to the rate hikes and quantitative tightening. That's why the investor basically pull out their money from riskier asset and put them in safer one like bonds and gold. Got it? So in conclusion, basically, the quantitative easing means more liquidity, lower interest rate, that is bullish for crypto. And quantitative tightening basically means less liquidity, higher interest rate, and bearish for crypto. Got it? So if I go to the Poly Market website, this is basically where people usually bet on the events. Like here you can see there is an event like will Fed end quantitative tightening before May. People are basically betting 100% on yes vote. Okay, so this might be a signal like Fed maybe ends the quantitative tightening phase. As I told you before, we are currently in quantitative tightening phase. Got it? So if Fed decrease the uh, quantitative tightening phase in April, that will be very bullish for the market. Got it?